My dear brothers and sisters, before you move on, let me ask you to stay with me for just a few moments, because this moment you are in right now is not as ordinary as it feels. You did not arrive here by chance. You did not stop here by accident. Something inside you slowed down before your mind even understood why. There are times when Allah does not call a person loudly. He calls them quietly, through a feeling, through a pause, through a heaviness in the heart that no distraction seems to remove. And if you are listening to this right now, especially in a quiet moment of your day or night, let me tell you something gently. This is not random. There are people who will scroll past these words and feel nothing. And then there are people who stop not because they were looking for a video, but because their soul was looking for reassurance. If that is you, then let me speak to you personally. You may be carrying something you have not told anyone about, a question you keep pushing away, a tiredness that sleep does not fix, a feeling that something in your life is changing, even if you cannot explain what it is. And Allah often begins His greatest work in a person at exactly this point. Not when they feel strong, not when they feel confident, but when they feel quiet, unsure, and open. So before you move on, before you let the noise of the world take your attention again, stay here for a few minutes. Because what you are about to hear is not meant for everyone. It is meant for the heart that is ready to be reminded that it is seen, guided, and never walking alone. The quiet moment Allah used to stop your scroll. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to you softly, because this moment is not loud and it is not random. You did not come here because you were searching for something specific. You came here because something inside you slowed down. Your thumb paused, your mind paused. Your heart leaned forward, even if you did not notice it. And sometimes Allah begins His message with nothing more than a pause. Life usually moves quickly. Days pass without asking us how we feel. Responsibilities stack up. People expect things from us. Messages arrive before we have even finished thinking about the last one. We wake up already running and we fall asleep already tired. In all of this movement, the heart often becomes quiet in a way that is not peaceful but distant. It keeps going, but it stops feeling. Tonight, something different happened. Tonight, you stopped. Not because the world became quiet, not because all your problems were suddenly solved, but because your soul asked for a moment. It leaned forward gently and said, "Let me breathe." There are moments when Allah does not change what is happening around you. He changes what is happening within you. He turns your attention away from the noise outside and brings it back to the space inside your chest, where your heart lives, where your intentions live, where your connection with Him quietly waits. You may not even be able to explain what you are feeling right now. It might feel like tiredness. It might feel like heaviness. It might feel like a soft sadness without a clear story behind it. Or it might feel like a calm that you were not expecting. Whatever it is, do not rush past it, because sometimes this feeling is not a problem, it is an invitation. Allah often speaks to us in ways that do not use sound. He does not always send a clear sign that everyone can see. Sometimes He sends a feeling that only you can carry. A gentle pull inside your heart that says, there is more to you than what you are giving your life to right now. Think about how many times in your day you move without really being present. You walk, but your mind is somewhere else. You listen, but your heart is distracted. You pray, but your thoughts wander. This is not because you are a bad person. It is because the world is loud and the heart is soft. So Allah creates moments like this. Moments where the noise fades just enough for you to hear yourself again. You may be sitting alone, you may be in a quiet room, you may be lying down after a long day, and suddenly you feel something that you cannot quite name. It feels like awareness, like your heart is waking up from a long sleep. This is not emptiness. This is presence. This is the heart remembering that it belongs to Allah before it belongs to anything else in this world. My dear brothers and sisters, let me tell you something very gentle and very important. Allah does not need you to be perfect to speak to you. He does not wait for you to have everything in your life in order. He does not wait for you to feel strong, confident, or spiritually high. He meets you exactly where you are. If you are tired, He meets you in your tiredness. If you are confused, He meets you in your questions. If you are hurting, He meets you in your pain. And sometimes the way He meets you is by giving you a moment like this, a quiet moment where the world steps back and your heart steps forward. You may have carried things today that no one else knows about, a worry you did not share, a disappointment you hid behind a smile, a fear you pushed down because you did not want to burden anyone. These things do not disappear just because you keep going. They stay inside you, quietly taking up space. But Allah sees them all. He sees the version of you that shows up for others while something inside feels heavy. He sees the strength you use just to get through the day. And sometimes He gives you a pause, not to test you, but to care for you. This pause is like a soft hand on the heart that says, you do not have to run right now. You can sit, you can breathe, you can remember me. My dear brothers and sisters, guidance does not always arrive as a clear answer. It does not always come as a sudden solution to your problems. Sometimes guidance comes as a shift in how you see your problems. You may still have the same responsibilities tomorrow. You may still face the same challenges. You may still walk into the same world. But inside you, something becomes a little steadier, a little calmer, a little more trusting. And that change inside you can carry you through things that once felt impossible. Think about the way a child looks for their parent in a crowded place. The noise is loud, people are moving, everything feels overwhelming. But when the child sees the face, they recognize something inside them settles. In the same way, when your heart turns back toward Allah, even for a moment, something inside you settles. The world does not suddenly become easy, but it becomes lighter to carry. This is why moments like this matter. They are not just about listening to words. They are about remembering who you are standing before in your life. You are not just a person moving through days, chasing goals, managing problems and trying to survive. You are a soul walking toward Allah, and every now and then Allah reminds you of that. You may wonder why this reminder came to you and not to someone else. Why you feel this pull, this awareness, this quiet longing. The answer is not because you are better than anyone else. It is because Allah knows what your heart can carry. He knows the depth inside you. He knows the questions you ask in the quiet. He knows the way you think about things that others may not even notice. And so, He speaks to you in a way that fits your heart. My dear brothers and sisters, do not underestimate the power of small moments. We often think that change only happens through big events. A major loss, a great success, a dramatic experience. But sometimes the most important changes begin with something very simple. A pause, a feeling, a moment of awareness, a quiet turning of the heart back to Allah. This is how a person begins to grow without realizing it. This is how a soul begins to soften. This is how a heart begins to heal. You may not walk away from this moment feeling completely different. You may not suddenly feel strong or inspired or full of energy, and that is okay. Not every seed grows the moment it is planted. Some seeds sit quietly in the soil for a long time before anything appears on the surface. But something is happening underneath. In the same way, when you allow your heart to sit in remembrance, even for a short while, something is happening inside you, even if you cannot yet see it. My dear brothers and sisters, let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you sat with yourself without trying to escape the feeling inside your chest? Not with your phone, not with a distraction, not with noise, but just you and your thoughts, you and your heart, you and Allah. These moments can feel uncomfortable at first, because when everything becomes quiet, the things we have been carrying start to speak. The worries, the regrets, the hopes, the fears, the questions about where we are going and who we are becoming. But this discomfort is not meant to push you away. It is meant to draw you closer to the one who can carry these things better than you can. Allah does not ask you to understand everything in your life. He asks you to trust Him with it. And trust does not grow in loud moments. It grows in quiet ones. It grows when you say, Ya Allah, I do not fully understand what you are doing in my life, but I believe you are doing something good. It grows when you sit in the stillness and allow your heart to lean on Him instead of leaning on answers. My dear brothers and sisters, this moment is small, but it is meaningful. It may be just a few minutes in your day, just a short pause in your night, but it is a reminder that you are not alone in your journey. Allah is with you in your movement. Allah is with you in your stillness. Allah is with you in your strength. Allah is with you in your weakness. And sometimes He shows you that closeness not through a dramatic sign, but through a quiet feeling that tells you to stay a little longer, to listen a little deeper, to let your heart rest in His remembrance. So do not rush back into the noise just yet. Let this moment sit with you. Let it breathe inside you. Let it remind you that you are not just living a life. You are being guided through it, step by step, moment by moment, even in the quiet. And if all you take from this lesson is this one simple thought, let it be this: the pause you felt tonight was not empty. It was full of care. It was full of meaning. It was full of Allah's gentle attention toward your heart. And that alone is a sign that you are not forgotten. You are being guided why your heart no longer feels at home in the same places. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to you gently, because this feeling you are carrying is one of the quietest and most misunderstood parts of growth. There was a time when certain places felt warm to you, certain conversations felt easy, certain people felt like home. You could walk into a room and feel like you belonged without having to explain yourself. You could sit with others and feel light, relaxed, and at ease. But now something feels different. You walk into the same spaces and your heart does not settle the way it used to. You listen to the same words and they do not land the same way. You sit in the same gatherings, and instead of feeling full, you feel tired. And you may quietly ask yourself, what is wrong with me? Let me tell you something softly. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is changing. Sometimes we think growth always feels like excitement. We think it feels like motivation, energy, and confidence. But very often, real growth begins with discomfort. It begins with a strange feeling of not fitting anymore in places that once felt familiar. This is not because those places suddenly became bad. It is because your heart became different. When Allah begins to work on a soul, one of the first things He changes is what that soul finds satisfying. What once filled you starts to feel empty. What once entertained you starts to feel shallow. What once felt like enough starts to feel like something is missing. This can be confusing, because on the outside, nothing may have changed. The people may still be kind. The environment may still be safe. The routine may still be the same. But inside you, there is a quiet shift. It feels like your heart is looking for something deeper, even if you do not yet know what that deeper thing is. My dear brothers and sisters, this feeling often shows up in small ways. You may find yourself becoming quiet in conversations where you once spoke freely. You may find yourself listening more and talking less. You may find that jokes you once enjoyed no longer make you laugh the same way. You may find that certain topics no longer interest you. And you may wonder if you are becoming distant or strange or difficult. But sometimes this is not distance. This is discernment. Allah begins to teach your heart the difference between what passes time and what carries meaning. Between what fills the moment and what fills the soul. Between what is loud and what is true. This can feel lonely. because not everyone around you will be in the same place in their journey. You may be sitting in a room full of people and still feel like you are alone inside your own thoughts. But let me tell you something important. This loneliness is not a sign that you are being left behind. It is often a sign that you are being called forward. There are times when Allah gently moves a person out of comfort so that they can move closer to purpose. If you stay too comfortable in one place, you may never feel the need to grow. So Allah creates a subtle restlessness, not a dramatic pain, not a clear sign, just a quiet feeling that says there is more for you than this. Think about a traveler who stays too long in one town. The town may be beautiful, the people may be kind, the food may be good, but if the traveler never leaves, they will never see what is beyond that place. So something inside them eventually starts to itch. They start to feel the road calling them. In the same way, your heart is a traveler. It was not created to settle permanently in anything of this world. It was created to move toward Allah. So when it starts to feel uncomfortable in certain places, it does not always mean those places are harmful. It can mean that your heart is being reminded that it does not belong to the world in the same way it once thought it did. My dear brothers and sisters, this feeling can show up in relationships as well. You may find that you no longer connect with someone the way you used to. The conversations feel forced. The silence feels heavy. The understanding that once flowed easily now feels strained. And this can be painful because we often hold on to people as if they are meant to walk with us through every stage of our lives. But sometimes Allah allows people to walk with us only for a season. Not because anyone did something wrong, but because the journey is changing and the pace is changing and the direction is changing. This does not mean you stop being kind. It does not mean you stop being respectful. It does not mean you stop caring. It simply means you accept that not everyone is meant to grow in the same direction at the same time. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the hardest parts of this stage is that it often comes without clear answers. If something painful happens, we can point to it and say, this is why I feel this way. But when growth happens quietly, there is no single moment you can blame or explain. You just wake up one day and realize, I am not the same person I was. And that realization can be unsettling. Because if you are not the same person, then what does that mean for your life, your plans, your relationships, your dreams? Let me tell you something gently. It does not mean everything will fall apart. It means everything is being reoriented. Allah does not grow a heart without caring for what that growth will require. He does not pull you away from one place without guiding you toward another, even if you cannot yet see where that other place is. Sometimes the guidance is not a new destination. Sometimes it is a new way of being in the same place. You may still go to the same work, still live in the same home, still see the same people. But inside you, your priorities begin to shift. What matters becomes clearer. What does not matter becomes lighter. And slowly, without a dramatic announcement, your life begins to move in a different direction. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the fear that often comes with this stage. The fear of being alone, the fear of not belonging, the fear of losing connections that once made you feel safe. These fears are real. They sit quietly in the background and whisper questions like, what if I end up with no one? What if I become someone people do not understand? What if I grow away from everyone? But let me remind you of something very important. You are not growing away from people. You are growing toward Allah. And when a person grows toward Allah, they do not become empty. They become full in a different way. A way that does not depend entirely on who is around them. A way that does not collapse when relationships change. A way that finds stability in something deeper than circumstance. This does not mean you stop loving people. It means you stop making people the center of your heart in a way that only Allah should be. My dear brothers and sisters, sometimes Allah allows you to feel out of place in the world so that you feel more at home with Him. You may find yourself drawn to prayer more than before, drawn to quiet moments, drawn to reflection, drawn to asking questions about your life, your choices, and your purpose. These are not signs of confusion. They are signs of awakening. The heart is waking up to the reality that life is not just about passing time. It is about preparing for something beyond time. And when that realization begins to settle in, it naturally changes how you experience everything else. My dear brothers and sisters, let me say this clearly. You do not have to force this change. You do not have to rush it. You do not have to explain it to everyone around you. Not everyone will understand what you are feeling, and that is okay. Growth is often a private journey before it becomes a visible one. What you can do is stay gentle with yourself. If you feel tired in certain spaces, allow yourself to step back and breathe. If you feel quiet in certain conversations, allow yourself to listen instead of pretending. If you feel drawn to silence, allow yourself to sit in it without immediately trying to escape. Because in that silence, Allah often shapes the heart in ways that words cannot. My dear brothers and sisters, this stage is not about becoming better than others. It is about becoming more honest with yourself, more aware of what truly nourishes you, more careful with what you allow into your heart. You begin to realize that not everything deserves your energy. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves a place in your mind. This is not arrogance. This is protection. Just as you protect your body from things that make it sick, Allah teaches your heart to protect itself from things that make it spiritually tired. And sometimes that protection feels like distance. It feels like stepping back. It feels like standing on the edge of a room instead of in the center of it. But in that space, something beautiful happens. You begin to see more clearly. You begin to hear more honestly. You begin to understand yourself in a deeper way. My dear brothers and sisters, let me end this lesson with a gentle reminder. If your heart no longer feels at home in the same places, do not immediately assume you have lost something. Ask yourself instead, what am I being invited toward? Sometimes Allah does not take something away. He makes room for something greater. Sometimes He does not close a door. He opens a window in your heart so you can see a different horizon. And even if you cannot yet see where this path is leading, trust the one who is guiding you on it. Because the heart that is being led by Allah is never truly lost. It is simply on its way to a deeper kind of home. The hidden shift happening inside you that you cannot see yet. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the part of you that feels tired in a way that sleep does not fix. You may lie down at night and rest your body, but when you wake up, your heart still feels heavy. You move through your day, you complete your tasks, you speak to people, you smile when you need to. But inside there is a quiet distance, like a part of you is standing back and watching your own life instead of fully stepping into it. And you may wonder, why do I feel this way when nothing is clearly wrong? Let me tell you gently. Sometimes this feeling is not a sign that something is broken. It is a sign that something is being rebuilt. There are changes Allah makes in a person that do not show on the outside. Your life may look the same to everyone else. You may still go to the same places, talk to the same people, and live within the same routine. But inside you, the ground is shifting. And when the ground shifts, the heart feels it before the eyes can see it. This stage often feels like standing in the middle of a bridge. You can still see where you came from, but you cannot yet see clearly where you are going. The old version of you no longer fits the way it used to, but the new version of you has not fully appeared. So you stand in between, and this in-between space feels like restlessness. It feels like emotional weight. It feels like a quiet confusion that you cannot easily explain to anyone else. But this space is not empty. It is active. It is where Allah begins to loosen your attachment to who you were, so He can prepare you for who you are becoming. My dear brothers and sisters, think about the way a tree grows. You do not see the roots stretching deeper into the ground. You only notice the branches when they finally reach higher into the sky. But without the hidden work below the surface, the tree would never be able to stand tall when the wind comes. In the same way, Allah often works on the roots of your heart before He changes the shape of your life. He deepens your patience. He softens your pride. He sharpens your awareness. He strengthens your trust. And all of this happens quietly, in moments when you think nothing important is happening at all. You may feel like you are standing still while everyone else seems to be moving forward. You may scroll through the lives of others and see their progress, their happiness, their achievements. And inside, a question may rise: when is it my turn? But let me tell you something with kindness. Not every season is meant for visible growth. Some seasons are meant for invisible preparation. A seed buried in the ground looks like it has disappeared. To someone passing by, it seems like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, something powerful is unfolding. The seed is breaking open. The old form is being destroyed so a new form can emerge. And that breaking is not gentle. It is uncomfortable. It is dark. It is quiet. But it is necessary. In the same way, this stage of your life may feel like a kind of inner breaking. The things you once relied on for comfort no longer work the same way. The distractions that once helped you forget now feel empty. The plans you once held tightly now feel uncertain. And you may feel like you are losing pieces of yourself. But what you are really losing is what you have outgrown. My dear brothers and sisters, this hidden shift often shows up in the way you think. You begin to question things you never questioned before. You begin to reflect on your choices, your intentions, your direction. You begin to ask, why am I doing this? Instead of just, how do I do this? And these questions can feel heavy, because once you start asking why, you cannot easily go back to living on the surface. Allah does not give every heart this kind of depth. When He allows you to feel this shift, it is because He trusts you with it. He knows you can carry the weight of awareness. He knows you can sit with questions without running from them. He knows you can grow through discomfort instead of becoming bitter from it. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the fear that sometimes rises in this stage. The fear of losing control. The fear of not knowing what comes next. The fear of feeling like you are drifting without a clear direction. These fears are natural. We like to feel like we understand our lives. We like to feel like we can predict what will happen if we just plan well enough and try hard enough. But sometimes Allah removes that sense of control on purpose. Not to make you anxious, but to teach you trust. Trust does not grow when everything is predictable. It grows when you place your heart in Allah's hands and say, I do not fully understand what you are doing, but I believe you are doing something good. This hidden shift is often the moment when a person moves from believing in Allah in words to relying on Allah in their heart. It is the difference between saying, I trust Allah, and actually living as if you do. My dear brothers and sisters, you may notice that you are becoming more sensitive during this time. Things affect you more deeply. Words stay with you longer. Scenes, moments, and even silence carry more weight. And you may think this sensitivity is a weakness, but sometimes it is a sign that your heart is becoming more alive. A heart that feels deeply is a heart that can connect deeply. A heart that is aware is a heart that can turn back to Allah with sincerity. Allah does not harden the hearts. He wants to elevate. He softens them because a soft heart can be shaped. A soft heart can be guided. A soft heart can receive light. My dear brothers and sisters, let me remind you of something very gentle. You do not have to understand this stage of your life perfectly. You do not have to label it. You do not have to explain it to others. Not every part of your journey is meant to be shared. Some parts are meant to be lived quietly between you and Allah. If you feel like pulling back a little, allow yourself that space. If you feel like sitting in silence, let yourself sit. If you feel like making dua without having the right words, let your heart speak in its own way. Allah understands the language of feelings better than the language of sentences. My dear brothers and sisters, this hidden shift is not something you need to rush through. Just like a seed cannot be pulled out of the ground before it is ready, your heart cannot be forced into its next stage before Allah has completed what He is doing inside you. Patience here is not passive, it is active trust. It is choosing every day to keep turning back to Allah, even when you do not feel strong, even when you do not feel clear, even when you do not feel hopeful. It is saying, Ya Allah, I am here, I am listening, I am open, guide me. And that prayer, even if it is whispered in your heart instead of spoken with your lips, carries great weight. My dear brothers and sisters, one day this hidden shift will become visible. You will notice that you respond differently to things that once upset you. You will notice that you are calmer in situations that once made you anxious. You will notice that your priorities have changed in ways you did not consciously choose. And you will look back at this quiet, confusing, heavy season and realize that it was not wasted. It was formative. It was the season where Allah was not changing your life. He was changing you. So if you are in this space right now, do not be afraid of it. Do not rush to escape it. Do not label it as failure or weakness. See it for what it truly is. A private conversation between your heart and Allah. A hidden workshop where your soul is being shaped. A silent chapter that will one day explain the strength you did not know you had. And remember this, my dear brothers and sisters, what Allah builds in silence often stands strongest in the storm. Trust the hidden work. Trust the quiet growth. Trust the one who is guiding you through a change you cannot yet see. But one day you will deeply understand. When Allah removes something before you understand why. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the moment that hurts in a quiet way. Not the kind of pain that makes you cry in front of others, but the kind that sits with you when the room is empty. The kind that comes back when you finally lie down at night and your mind begins to replay what happened, what changed, what left. There are moments in life when something is taken from you without a clear explanation. A person who once felt close becomes distant. A path you were walking suddenly closes. A plan you built in your heart slowly falls apart, and you are left standing there with questions instead of answers. You may ask yourself, what did I do wrong? You may search through your words, your actions, your intentions, trying to find the mistake that caused this to happen. But let me tell you gently, not everything that leaves your life does so because you failed. Sometimes it leaves because Allah is protecting you from something you cannot yet see. We often look at life from the point where we are standing. We see the comfort of the present moment. We see the relief of having someone, something, or some direction in our lives. But Allah sees the road ahead. He sees the turns you have not reached yet. He sees the outcomes you cannot imagine. So when something is about to become a burden instead of a blessing, Allah sometimes steps in quietly and removes it. And because the removal happens before the harm, it feels confusing. It feels unfair. It feels sudden. But mercy does not always feel gentle in the moment it arrives. My dear brothers and sisters, think about a child who reaches for something sharp. The parent does not explain everything. They simply pull the child's hand away. To the child, it feels like interruption. It feels like loss. But to the parent, it is protection. In the same way, Allah sometimes pulls things out of our hands without giving us a full explanation right away. Not because He is distant, but because He is close enough to care. This is one of the hardest lessons to accept, because we naturally attach our hearts to what we love, what we hope for, and what we plan. When those things leave, it feels like a part of us leaves with them. You may find yourself replaying memories, rereading messages, walking past places that now feel different, thinking about how things used to be and wondering how they became what they are now. And in these moments, your heart may feel like it is searching for closure. But sometimes closure does not come in the form of an answer. Sometimes it comes in the form of trust. Trust that Allah knows what He is doing even when you do not. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the feeling of being replaced, forgotten, or left behind. This feeling can be heavy. It can make you question your worth. It can make you wonder if you were ever truly valued. But remember this, if Allah removes something from your life, it is not because you are unworthy. It is because that thing was no longer worthy of the version of you that Allah is shaping. You may not see this right now. You may still feel the loss more than the protection. But one day, when you stand in a different place in your life with a different level of strength and awareness, you will look back and realize that what left you could not have walked with you to where Allah was taking you. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a quiet wisdom in how Allah removes things. He does not always take them away in one dramatic moment. Sometimes He lets them fade. Conversations become shorter. Effort becomes one-sided, connection becomes thinner, and slowly, without a clear ending, something that once felt strong becomes distant. And this can be even more painful because there is no single moment you can point to and say, this is when it ended. It just slowly slips away. But even in this, there is mercy. Because sometimes if Allah were to remove something all at once, it would break your heart too sharply. So He allows it to loosen over time so your heart can slowly learn to let go. My dear brothers and sisters, let me also speak to the times when Allah removes something you worked hard for. A job you aimed for, an opportunity you prayed about, a plan you built carefully. You did everything you thought you were supposed to do. You put in the effort, you made the dua, you waited with hope, and still it did not work out. This can feel especially confusing because it feels like you did your part, but the result did not come. But remember this, your effort is never wasted. Your dua is never ignored. Sometimes Allah answers by giving you exactly what you asked for. And sometimes He answers by giving you something better, even if it does not feel better at first. You may not see the better right away. In fact, you may feel like you have been pushed backward instead of forward. But life is not always a straight line. Sometimes Allah takes you on a longer path, not to delay you, but to prepare you. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a kind of strength that only comes from having something removed and still choosing to trust Allah. It is easy to trust when things are going your way. It is easy to say Alhamdulillah when you are comfortable. But when something leaves and you still turn back to Allah instead of turning away from Him, that is a deep level of faith. That is a heart that says, Ya Allah, I may not understand this, but I believe you are still good. And that kind of trust changes a person. It makes your connection with Allah less about what you receive and more about who He is. My dear brothers and sisters, let me remind you of something very gentle. You are not walking this journey alone. Even when something leaves your life, Allah does not leave with it. Even when a door closes, Allah remains with you in the hallway. Even when a chapter ends, Allah is still writing your story. And sometimes He removes a page so that the next one can be written more clearly. If you are in a season of loss right now, do not rush yourself to move on quickly. Let your heart feel what it needs to feel. Let yourself grieve what you thought your life was going to look like. But do not let that grief turn into bitterness. Let it turn into dua. Let it turn into reflection. Let it turn into a deeper conversation with Allah. Because in those conversations, something beautiful often begins to grow. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you will stand in a place in your life that you could not have reached if certain things had stayed. You will meet people you would not have met. You will become a version of yourself you would not have become. You will see parts of life you would not have seen. And in that moment, the loss you feel today will make sense. Not because it did not hurt, but because it led somewhere meaningful. So if something has been removed from your life without explanation, hold on to this thought. Allah does not take things away to leave your hands empty. He takes things away to make space for something that fits you better, something that aligns more closely with who you are becoming, something that walks with you, not just where you are, but where Allah is guiding you to go. Trust the one who sees the full road, even when you can only see the step in front of you, and keep walking, even in the quiet, even in the confusion, even in the loss. Because Allah is still with you, still guiding you, still shaping a path that leads to a deeper kind of peace than you may yet understand. The invisible upgrade your soul is receiving in silence. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the part of your journey that no one else can see. The part that does not show on your face, the part that does not appear in your achievements, the part that does not get noticed by people around you. This is the work Allah is doing inside your heart, quietly, patiently, without an audience. There are changes in life that come with celebration, a new job, a new home, a new beginning that people can congratulate you for. But there are also changes that come with no applause at all. These are the changes of the soul. You may feel like your life looks the same on the outside. You still wake up to the same routine. You still walk the same roads. You still face the same responsibilities. And you may wonder, if Allah is really working on me, why does nothing look different yet? But let me tell you something gently. Not everything that matters shows up in your circumstances. Some of the most powerful changes show up in how you respond to your circumstances. Think about the moments when something goes wrong and you do not react the way you used to. You pause instead of exploding. You breathe instead of blaming. You turn to Allah instead of turning bitter. These are not small victories. These are signs of deep, invisible growth. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah does not always upgrade your life first. He often upgrades your heart first. Because a stronger heart can carry a heavier life without breaking. A softer heart can walk through difficulty without becoming hard. A trusting heart can face uncertainty without losing its peace. And this kind of heart is not built in comfort. It is built in quiet moments of choice. Moments when no one is watching. Moments when you could easily take the easier path, but you choose the better one instead. You choose patience when anger feels justified. You choose forgiveness when holding a grudge feels easier. You choose prayer when distraction feels more tempting. These choices may feel small in the moment, but in the sight of Allah, they carry great weight. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the nights when you sit alone with your thoughts. The times when your mind replays what happened, what was said, what went wrong, what you wish had been different. You may feel the urge to defend yourself in your head, to explain yourself to people who are not there, to imagine conversations that never happened, but instead you turn to Allah. You speak to Him instead of to the world. You place your worries in His hands instead of carrying them alone. This is not weakness. This is strength in its quietest form. A person who can sit with their pain and still choose to trust Allah is a person whose soul is being strengthened in a way that cannot be easily shaken. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a kind of training Allah gives that looks like stillness from the outside. People may think you are doing nothing. They may think you are stuck. They may think you are falling behind. But inside you are learning how to stand. You are learning how to carry disappointment without losing faith. You are learning how to face uncertainty without losing hope. You are learning how to walk through silence without losing connection. And these lessons will serve you in moments when life becomes loud again. Because it will. There will be days when things move quickly, when responsibilities grow, when challenges increase, when expectations rise. And if Allah had not trained your heart in silence first, the noise of those days might overwhelm you. My dear brothers and sisters, let me remind you of something important. Not everyone who looks successful on the outside is strong on the inside. Some people rise quickly, but their hearts are not ready for the height they reach. So when difficulty comes, they fall just as quickly. Allah in His mercy often builds your inner strength before He changes your outer position. He prepares you to carry what He plans to give you. This is part of His care. This is part of His wisdom. This is part of His love. You may feel like you are being delayed, but sometimes you are being reinforced. My dear brothers and sisters, this invisible upgrade often changes the way you see people. You become slower to judge, quicker to understand, more patient with the mistakes of others, because you have seen your own weaknesses. You have felt your own struggles. You have sat with your own questions, and this makes you gentle. A gentle heart is not a weak heart. It is a heart that has been softened by awareness and shaped by reflection. And Allah loves gentleness. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us that gentleness does not enter something except that it beautifies it. So when Allah makes your heart more gentle, He is making you more beautiful in a way that no mirror can show. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the times when you feel unseen. When you do the right thing and no one thanks you. When you hold back words that could have defended you and no one knows the effort that took. When you stay patient in a situation that feels unfair and no one notices your restraint. In these moments, remember this: you are not unseen. You are seen by the one who matters most. Allah sees the intention behind your silence. Allah sees the effort behind your patience. Allah sees the struggle behind your smile, and He does not let any of it go to waste. Even if the reward does not come in this moment, it is being stored in a way that is better, deeper, and more lasting. My dear brothers and sisters, this invisible upgrade also changes the way you think about success. You begin to care less about how things look to others and more about how they feel in your heart. You begin to measure your days not just by what you achieved, but by how you behaved. Not just by what you gained, but by what you learned. Not just by how far you moved, but by how close you stayed to Allah. And this shift in what you value changes everything. Because when Allah becomes your reference point instead of people, your heart becomes steadier. Praise does not lift you too high. Criticism does not push you too low. You walk with a quieter confidence, one that does not need to announce itself. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the patience this stage requires. Invisible growth can feel frustrating. You want to see results. You want to feel progress. You want to know that what you are going through is leading somewhere, but not everything in life gives immediate feedback. Some of the most important work takes time to show itself. Just like muscles grow after rest, not during the effort itself, the heart often grows in the quiet moments after the struggle. When you sit, when you reflect, when you turn back to Allah, these are the moments when the lessons of the day settle into your soul. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you will notice that you have become someone you did not intentionally try to become. You will realize that you are calmer in situations that once made you anxious, kinder in moments that once made you defensive, more trusting in times that once made you fearful. And you will look back at this silent season and understand that it was not empty, it was full of unseen work, full of quiet strengthening, full of gentle shaping. So if you feel like nothing in your life is changing right now, look closer, not at your circumstances, but at your heart. Look at how you speak, look at how you react, look at how you turn back to Allah when things become heavy. These are the signs of the invisible upgrade. And remember this, my dear brothers and sisters, what Allah builds in silence lasts longer than what the world builds in noise. What Allah shapes in the heart stands stronger than what people give with their hands. Trust the quiet work, honor the unseen growth, and keep walking gently, patiently, faithfully. Because even when you feel still, Allah is moving you forward in ways you will one day deeply understand why you are being pulled away from the crowd without warning. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the moment when you start to feel different in rooms that once felt familiar. You walk into a gathering and everything looks the same faces, the same voices, the same conversations moving from one topic to another. But inside you, something feels out of place. Not uncomfortable in a sharp way, but distant in a gentle one, like your heart is standing a step back from the moment instead of stepping fully into it. You may sit among people and still feel alone in your thoughts. You may listen but feel like your heart is somewhere else. And you may quietly ask yourself, why do I feel this way when nothing around me has changed? Let me tell you softly, sometimes the crowd does not change. The heart does. There are seasons when Allah begins to shift a person's direction before He changes their surroundings. He adjusts the inner compass first. And when that happens, the places you once felt comfortable in no longer feel aligned with where your heart is being guided. This pulling away does not always come with a clear sign or a dramatic event. It often arrives quietly. You start to decline invitations without knowing exactly why. You prefer to go home earlier instead of staying out longer. You find yourself craving silence after being around noise. And you may worry that you are becoming distant or cold or disconnected. But sometimes this is not distance, it is focus. Allah is narrowing your attention not to shrink your life but to deepen it. In the crowd, it is easy to live on the surface. You laugh, you talk, you move and time passes. But in the quiet, the heart begins to speak. It brings up questions, reflections and feelings that do not always have space in busy rooms. My dear brothers and sisters, think about how often we define ourselves by how others see us. We adjust our words to fit the room. We shape our behavior to match expectations. We hold back parts of ourselves so we do not stand out too much. And over time, this can make the heart tired because the heart was not created to perform. It was created to be sincere. So Allah sometimes pulls you away from the crowd so that you can remember who you are when no one is watching. Not who people expect you to be. Not who the environment pressures you to become, but who you truly are in the quiet presence of Allah. This can feel uncomfortable because being alone with yourself leaves no distractions. There is no one to impress, no one to entertain, no one to hide behind. It is just you and your thoughts, you and your intentions, you and your Lord. And in that space, things become clear. You start to notice what actually matters to you. What drains you? What gives you peace? What brings you closer to Allah? And what pulls you away? My dear brothers and sisters, this pulling away from the crowd often happens when Allah is preparing you for a different kind of role in life. Not necessarily a public role. Sometimes it is a private one. The role of being a source of calm instead of noise. The role of being someone who listens instead of someone who always speaks. The role of being someone who reflects instead of someone who rushes. These roles are not flashy. They do not come with attention, but they come with depth. And depth is something Allah values greatly. You may notice that you are becoming more careful with your words. You think before you speak. You pause before you react. You choose silence more often than you choose argument. And people may not understand this change. They may think you are becoming quiet, but in reality, you are becoming intentional. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the loneliness that can come with this stage. There is a kind of loneliness that comes from being physically alone. And there is a different kind of loneliness that comes from feeling unseen in a crowd. This stage often brings the second kind. You may be surrounded by people and still feel like no one truly understands what is happening inside you. This can feel heavy, but let me remind you of something gentle. Allah understands. He understands the thoughts you cannot put into words. He understands the feelings you do not know how to explain. He understands the direction your heart is being pulled, even when you do not fully understand it yourself. And sometimes Allah becomes your closest companion in seasons when people feel distant, not to replace people, but to remind you that your deepest connection is not meant to depend entirely on anyone in this world. My dear brothers and sisters, this pulling away can also be Allah's way of protecting you. Not every environment is meant to shape your heart. Not every voice deserves a place in your mind. Not every influence is meant to walk with you into your next stage of life. So Allah creates space. He makes you step back. He makes you observe instead of immediately participate. And in that observation, you begin to see things more clearly. You notice patterns. You notice intentions. You notice what lifts you and what lowers you. And this awareness becomes a kind of shield, a gentle protection for your heart. My dear brothers and sisters, do not confuse this stage with becoming better than others. It is not about superiority, it is about sensitivity. Your heart is becoming more aware of what it allows inside. Just like you become careful about what you eat when you want to protect your body, Allah teaches your heart to become careful about what it consumes emotionally and spiritually. This may mean fewer conversations, fewer attachments, fewer distractions. But what remains often becomes more meaningful, more sincere, more real. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the fear that sometimes follows this pulling away. The fear of being forgotten, the fear of being left out, the fear of losing connections. These fears can make you want to rush back into the crowd, even if your heart does not feel settled there. But let me remind you of something important. You are not being pulled away to be diminished. You are being pulled away to be refined. Just as gold is separated from other materials so it can be purified, the heart is sometimes separated from the noise so it can be clarified. And clarity is a gift. When you are clear about who you are and what you stand for, you do not have to constantly adjust yourself to fit every space. You can walk into a room and be calm, not because everyone agrees with you, but because you agree with yourself in the presence of Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, this stage also teaches you how to be alone without being empty. You begin to find peace in your own company. You begin to enjoy moments of silence. You begin to feel that you do not always need external stimulation to feel okay. And this is a powerful form of strength. A person who can be alone with their thoughts and still feel connected to Allah is not easily shaken by the ups and downs of social life. Praise does not intoxicate them. Criticism does not destroy them. They walk with a steadiness that comes from within, not from around. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you may return to the crowd in a different way, not to blend in, but to contribute, not to seek attention, but to offer presence, not to be shaped by the room, but to bring something into the room, kindness, understanding. And when that day comes, you will realize why Allah taught you to stand in silence first. So if you feel like you are being pulled away from people, from noise, from constant movement, do not immediately label it as loss. Ask yourself gently, what is Allah trying to teach my heart in this quiet? Because sometimes the most important lessons are not spoken in public. They are whispered in solitude. And those whispers, my dear brothers and sisters, often shape the kind of person who can walk through any crowd without losing themselves. My dear brothers and sisters, let me continue this gentle conversation, because this stage of your life often needs more than one moment of understanding. There is something very subtle about being pulled away from the crowd. It does not always look like isolation from the outside. Sometimes you are still present, you still attend, you still smile, you still speak when needed. But inside, you feel like you are standing slightly behind yourself, observing instead of fully participating. You notice how people speak. You notice what they chase. You notice what excites them, what angers them, what defines them. And you begin to realize that your heart is no longer running at the same speed. This can feel strange because for a long time, your identity may have been tied to belonging, being part of a group, being understood, being included. And now, without anyone saying it out loud, you feel like you are stepping into a different rhythm. Let me tell you something gently. This is not a loss of connection. This is a shift in connection. Allah sometimes changes the way you relate to people before He changes the people you relate to. You may still care, you may still love, but you no longer feel the need to anchor your worth in how others respond to you. This is a quiet form of freedom. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a kind of maturity that comes when you stop needing every room to feel like home. You begin to understand that some rooms are meant to be passed through, not settled in. Some conversations are meant to be shared, not lived inside. Some relationships are meant to be appreciated, not leaned on for your entire sense of self. This understanding does not make you cold. It makes you balanced. You can be present without being dependent. You can be kind without being consumed. You can care without losing yourself. My dear brothers and sisters, this pulling away also changes the way you experience time. You may find that you no longer want to fill every empty moment with something. You sit quietly instead of reaching for distraction. You walk without headphones sometimes. You let your thoughts wander instead of forcing them into entertainment. And in these quiet moments, something interesting happens. Your heart begins to speak in a clearer voice. You start to notice patterns in your own behavior. You begin to understand why certain things affect you the way they do. You become more aware of your intentions, your reactions, your fears, and your hopes. This self-awareness is not meant to turn you inward in a way that makes you self-absorbed. It is meant to turn you inward in a way that makes you more honest. Honest about what you can handle. Honest about what you need. Honest about what you are running from. And this honesty is a powerful foundation for a deeper relationship with Allah. Because Allah does not need you to present a perfect version of yourself. He invites you to come as you truly are. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the moments when you feel misunderstood during this stage. People may say, you've changed. They may say, you're not as fun as you used to be. You're not as fun as you used to be. They may say, you're too quiet now. And you may not know how to explain what is happening inside you. You may not even fully understand it yourself. So you simply nod or smile or stay silent. But let me tell you something gently. Not every change needs to be explained. Not every growth needs to be justified. Some transformations are meant to be lived, not defended. If Allah is shaping your heart in a way that makes you more reflective, more careful, more grounded, you do not owe the world an explanation for that. You owe Allah your sincerity. My dear brothers and sisters, this pulling away can also be Allah teaching you the difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is feeling empty without people. Solitude is feeling full even when you are by yourself. And this stage often moves you from one to the other. You begin to realize that being alone does not have to mean being disconnected. You can be alone in your room and still feel connected to Allah. You can be alone in your thoughts and still feel guided. You can be alone in your struggles and still feel supported. This kind of connection does not depend on messages, calls, or invitations. It depends on remembrance, on turning back to Allah in moments of quiet, on speaking to Him when no one else is listening. And this builds a relationship that stays with you no matter where you go or who is around you. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the patience this stage requires. Because being pulled away from the crowd can feel like standing on the edge of something without knowing what is next. You may feel like you do not fully belong where you were, but you also do not yet see where you are meant to be. This can feel like being in a hallway between two rooms. The door behind you has closed. The door in front of you has not yet opened. And you are standing in the quiet in between. This is a vulnerable place, but it is also a sacred one, because hallways are places of transition, not of destination. Allah does not leave you here to forget you. He brings you here to prepare you. My dear brothers and sisters, in this hallway, you learn things you could not learn in either room. You learn how to wait without panicking. You learn how to trust without seeing. You learn how to walk without needing constant reassurance. These lessons do not come quickly. They come slowly through repeated moments of choosing calm over fear, choosing prayer over complaint, choosing reflection over reaction. And over time, you realize that you are becoming someone who can stand steadily even when the ground feels uncertain. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the beautiful results of this stage is that you begin to develop a deeper compassion for others. When you have walked through quiet, confusing, lonely seasons, you become more gentle with people who are struggling. You listen more carefully. You judge less quickly. You understand that everyone is carrying something even if they do not show it. This compassion is not learned in crowds. It is learned in silence. It is learned in nights when you sit with your own heart and realize how much you need mercy. And when you realize how much you need mercy, you become more willing to give it. My dear brothers and sisters, let me end this part with a gentle reminder. If you feel like you are being pulled away from the crowd, do not rush to run back just to feel normal again. Ask yourself what Allah might be teaching you in this quiet. Ask yourself what your heart is noticing now that it did not notice before. Ask yourself how your relationship with Allah is changing in this space. Because sometimes the quiet is not a gap in your life. It is a bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. And when you walk across it, even slowly, even with hesitation, you may find that the person who reaches the other side is stronger, softer, and more grounded than the person who first stepped onto it. So walk gently, walk patiently, walk with trust. Because even when the path feels narrow and quiet, Allah is walking with you, guiding each step, shaping each moment, and leading you toward a deeper kind of peace that does not depend on the crowd, but on Him alone, the sign that proves you were never meant to stay where you are. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the feeling that does not let you fully settle. You may have a life that looks fine on the outside. You may be doing what you are supposed to do. You may be meeting expectations, fulfilling responsibilities, and moving through your days without anything clearly wrong. And yet, inside, there is a quiet pull, a gentle restlessness, a soft voice in the heart that says, this is not the end of your story. You may not be able to explain this feeling to anyone. If someone asks you what you want or what you are missing, you might struggle to put it into words. Because it is not about one specific thing. It is not about a place, a person, or a goal. It is about direction. Let me tell you something gently. This feeling is not dissatisfaction, it is invitation. Allah places this inner pull inside certain hearts as a sign that they were not created to remain in one spiritual place for too long. The heart was not designed to be still in its journey toward Him. It was designed to keep moving, keep deepening, keep becoming more aware. So when you start to feel this restlessness, it does not always mean you are ungrateful. Sometimes it means you are being called forward. My dear brothers and sisters, think about how a student feels when they are ready for the next level. The classroom that once felt exciting begins to feel small. The lessons that once felt challenging begin to feel familiar. The teacher that once guided every step begins to step back. This does not mean the student is better than others. It means the student is ready to learn something new. In the same way, when Allah prepares a heart for a deeper connection with Him, He often allows the current stage of life to feel less satisfying. Not because it is bad, but because it is no longer enough for what your soul is being prepared to carry. This can be confusing, because we often think that comfort is a sign of success. We think that if things feel settled, that means we are in the right place. But sometimes comfort can become a place where growth slows down. So Allah introduces a gentle discomfort, not a crisis, not a disaster, just a quiet sense that there is more for you than what you are currently giving your heart to. My dear brothers and sisters, this sign often shows up in the way you think about your life. You begin to ask questions you never asked before. What is the purpose behind what I am doing? Who am I becoming through this? Is this bringing me closer to Allah or just keeping me busy? These questions can feel heavy because once you start asking them, you cannot easily go back to living without reflection. But these questions are a gift. They turn life from a routine into a journey. They turn days into opportunities for meaning. They turn actions into acts of intention. Allah does not give this kind of awareness to every heart. When He allows you to feel it, it is because He is inviting you into a deeper relationship with Him. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the fear that often comes with this sign. The fear of change, the fear of leaving what is familiar, the fear of stepping into something unknown. Even if you are not actually changing anything yet, the idea of not staying the same can be unsettling. There is a safety in knowing what to expect. There is comfort in routine. There is relief in predictability. But growth does not live in predictability. Growth lives in trust. When Allah places this restlessness in your heart, He is not asking you to make a sudden decision or a dramatic move. He is asking you to soften your heart to the idea that He may guide you in a direction you did not plan. And this requires humility. It requires saying, Ya Allah, I thought I knew where my life was going, but I am open to where you want to take me. My dear brothers and sisters, this sign also appears in the way you relate to the world around you. You may find that things you once chased no longer excite you the same way. Recognition feels lighter. Approval feels less necessary. Material goals feel less central. And instead, you begin to care more about your inner state. How you speak, how you treat people, how you stand before Allah in your prayers. This shift is not a loss of ambition. It is a change in what you are ambitious for. You begin to want a heart that is clean, not just a life that looks impressive. You begin to want peace, not just progress. You begin to want sincerity, not just success. And these desires often feel quiet compared to the loud goals of the world. But in the sight of Allah, they are powerful. My dear brothers and sisters, this sign can also show up in the way you respond to difficulty. Things that once made you angry now make you reflective. Situations that once made you defensive now make you thoughtful. Instead of immediately asking who is at fault, you begin to ask, what is Allah teaching me here? This does not mean you become passive or accept injustice. It means you add depth to your reactions. You see events not just as moments to survive, but as moments to learn from. This perspective is not common. It is a sign of a heart that is being trained to look beyond the surface of life. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the loneliness that can come with this stage. When your heart begins to move in this direction, not everyone around you will understand. Some people may still be focused on things that no longer hold the same weight for you. Some conversations may feel shallow. Some environments may feel tiring. And this can make you feel like you are walking a path that not many people are walking beside you. But remember this, not every path is meant to be crowded. Some paths are meant to be quiet so you can hear Allah's guidance more clearly. The fact that your journey feels personal does not mean it is wrong. It often means it is sincere. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most beautiful parts of this sign is that it brings you closer to dua. Not just asking Allah for things, but talking to Allah about yourself, your fears, your hopes, your confusion, your gratitude, your questions, your dreams. You begin to treat dua less like a list of requests and more like a conversation with the one who knows you better than you know yourself. And this kind of relationship with Allah changes everything. It makes you feel supported even when you feel uncertain. It makes you feel guided even when the path is not clear. It makes you feel seen even when you feel alone. My dear brothers and sisters, let me remind you of something very gentle. You do not have to rush this stage. You do not have to figure out everything all at once. You do not have to make big decisions just because you feel this inner pull. Sometimes the purpose of this sign is simply to make you more aware today than you were yesterday, more sincere in your prayer, more careful in your actions, more present in your moments. over time, these small changes shape a life in powerful ways. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you will look back and realize that this quiet restlessness was one of the greatest gifts Allah gave you, because it kept you from settling for a life that looked full but felt empty. It kept you from stopping in a place that was comfortable but limiting. It kept you moving toward a version of yourself that is more honest, more grounded, and more connected to Allah. So if you feel this sign in your heart right now, do not push it away. Do not silence it with distraction. Do not label it as weakness. Sit with it. Listen to it. Make dua about it. Ask Allah to guide it. Because this gentle, persistent pull inside you is not meant to make you restless. It is meant to make you real. Real in your faith, real in your intentions, real in your journey toward Allah. And remember this, my dear brothers and sisters. A heart that refuses to stay where it is spiritually is a heart that is being invited to rise, not in status, not in praise, but in closeness to the one who created it. And there is no greater elevation than that. The moment you will realize this season changed everything. My dear brothers and sisters, let me speak to the day that has not arrived yet, but is already on its way. There will come a moment in your life when you look back at this season and feel something very different from what you feel right now. The confusion will soften, the heaviness will lift, the questions that once circled your mind will become quieter. And in their place, understanding will begin to settle. Not all at once, not like a sudden flash of light, but slowly, gently, like dawn breaking across a dark horizon. You will begin to see connections between moments that once felt separate. You will remember things that hurt you, things that left you, things that did not work out. And instead of feeling the same pain, you will feel a strange sense of peace, because you will see where they led you. My dear brothers and sisters, this is one of the most beautiful gifts Allah gives a person. Perspective does not come in the middle of the storm. It comes after you have walked through it. When you are standing on the other side, you can finally turn around and see the path you traveled. Right now, you may only see the step in front of you. The ground may feel uneven. The air may feel heavy. You may not even be sure if you are moving in the right direction. But one day, you will look back and realize that even the moments when you felt lost were part of a guided path. Let me tell you something gently. There are lessons that can only be learned by living through them. No advice can replace them. No words can shortcut them. No explanation can fully prepare you for them. They have to be felt. They have to be carried. They have to be walked through. And this season you are in right now is one of those lessons. My dear brothers and sisters, think about how often you measure your life by what you see in the moment. You look at what you have, what you do not have, what worked, what failed, who stayed, who left. And you draw conclusions about your worth, your direction, and your future based on these small windows of time. But Allah does not measure your life in moments. He measures it in journeys. What feels like a delay to you may be a turning point in a much longer story. What feels like a setback to you may be the moment that redirected you towards something that fits you better. What feels like a loss to you may be the space that allowed something new to enter. My dear brothers and sisters, one day you will see how your heart changed before your life did. You will remember a time when you felt tired of things that once excited you. A time when you felt uncomfortable in places that once felt familiar. A time when you felt drawn towards silence instead of noise. And you will realize that this was not a period of emptiness. It was a period of preparation. Allah was teaching your heart how to carry what was coming. He was making you softer in places where you used to be hard, stronger in places where you used to be fragile, more trusting in places where you used to try to control everything. These changes are not dramatic when they happen. They are quiet.